Next, we're going to go into the Hero Receptionist Trap, and I feel like this has come up with every single clinic that we've spoken to. This is expecting the receptionist to be a clinician, the admin, and the salesperson all at once, along with being their PA to pick up their coffee. The receptionist role is extensive in the clinician's eyes. That can be a trap.
Yeah, the hero or the heroine receptionist is probably the most dangerous thing in the clinic. It is the single biggest threat to revenue, to growth, is put it in the reception desk. And this happens with everything. It happens with procurement. It happens with social media managing. It happens with client reception. It happens with sales and lead conversion. It happens with branding. It happens with website management. It happens with recall and follow-up. And it happens with coffees and personal administrative issues for the practitioners. My receptionist will do it. My medical secretary will do it. There are only so many things that one person can do, and even fewer things that any one person can do well. And so you have a reception desk which has become traffic control on the highway to move things from A to B. And the expectation that part of the clinic, which by the way is always overstretched, there is always more to do because it is a fire hose of a department. The water just keeps coming. It just keeps hitting that desk. And so the idea that I'll just put it in the reception desk because I've got a great reception team is actually code for intellectual laziness or an assumption that team is equipped either in the talent, with the tech and the tools, or with the techniques in order to actually deliver the outcome for the business. And they cannot, which is why you hiring a booking coordinator who will work for 35 hours a week, meanwhile your patients are working 120 hours a week to get in touch with you, 35 hours a week, with the wrong technology, with no background or experience in pipeline management, but they sound good on the phone, is not the solution to why you are leaking revenue all over the place.
Why are receptionists not equipped to be the hero and cover everything from front of house to revenue to PA work?
I used to work in reception at a practice, and very early on in the journey for Coherent, I was also in the reception desk at many of our clients, trying to understand what's exactly going on there, in uniform, the whole deal. And what you very quickly realize is that a certain kind of person is exceptionally good at a reception job, exceptionally good, far better than most. That person is extraordinarily attentive to detail. They're very service-minded. They're very procedural. Plus, they are not commercial. They are not commercial. Commercial doesn't mean salesy. Commercial means tracking revenue. Commercial means thinking about growth for the business. And so the assumption that my medical secretary or my reception team is also someone who owns revenue for me is fundamentally wrong. It is no different than saying my finance manager is also my sales manager. Of course they're not. It's a talent gap, it's a technique and training gap, and it's a tools and technology gap. So you've got three breaking points for that front office team. And a lot of clinic owners will try and address this by saying, I'm going to bring in a sales coach for my front office team. Let me do some professional development with a salesperson. They'll come in and they'll give my team the what to do and how to do it and make it magical. And that will fail because 2 hours of professional development once a quarter, if you're lucky, does not suddenly equip people with what takes oftentimes years to develop. In terms of know-how, in terms of focus, in terms of commerciality, in terms of thinking about how to qualify and disqualify and feed that back to a marketing function. This is a totally different person, which isn't to say one is better or worse than the other. They're just different people. And there's this tendency in healthcare to hire a medical secretary or receptionist and treat them like someone who's responsible for revenue. And it's unfair. And so you end up with a team that is overworked, in your view, might be underperforming and are failing to move the business forward. But that is not a failure on the front desk. It's a failure of the clinic leadership or of the provider leadership to assume that these are the same categories of talent. And we collaborate closely with a private hospital. They have an enormous sales team, enormous, 20 people dedicated to purely focusing on sales lead conversion. Forget recall and retention, just focusing on lead conversion. 20 people. Those 20 people are tucked away in an office. They don't sit at the front desk. Now, it's a large private hospital, so they have the luxury of doing that. They have the resources to hire that team and to staff them elsewhere and to give them more focus and presence. I'm not sure if they're doing a good job, but at least they're separating those two functions. But most smaller clinics, you're doing 1 million in turnover, 2 million in turnover, 5 million in turnover. You cannot afford to resource a team and a technology program that can deliver the kinds of repeatable outcomes that you want. And you have a gap for that reason.